Aaron Rodgers' sideline call-out to the Steelers' offensive line reads like an old-school leadership moment, blunt, immediate, and designed to draw a line in the sand. But it's more than a soundbite. In a camp full of young linemen, a 41-year-old future Hall of Famer walking onto the field and telling the group, "Don't you ever let that happen again," is a small event with outsized cultural and practical implications. Here's why it matters, and what the Steelers should watch for as training camp turns into the regular season. First, the context. Rodgers saw Skylar Thompson get knocked down during a team period and, correctly from his perspective, felt the group hadn't reacted or protected one of their own. Rodgers' follow-up description makes his intent clear. He wanted the line to understand they're guardians, not spectators. He stressed it's not about starting fights, but about having each other's backs. The response he describes, younger linemen stepping into the fray the next time, suggests the message landed. Why this matters for performance. Offensive line play is about more than technique. It's cohesion, trust, and communication under stress. If you have a collection of veterans and younger players who can instinctively know each other's tendencies and cover or chip when someone gets beat, your quarterback lives longer and your offense stays on schedule. Rodgers is essentially demanding that the Steelers adopt that instinctive protection now, rather than letting lapses become habits. That can translate immediately into fewer sacks, fewer hurry-ups that force bad throws, and fewer practice injuries that cascade into missed games. Rodgers' point is especially salient given his own injury history. Teams and quarterbacks instinctively care about protection when you've had major injuries in recent seasons. A line that truly self-polices reduces the physical toll on quarterbacks, backs, and skill players. Leadership and culture. Veteran fire versus locker room buy-in. There's an obvious leadership upside. Veterans who call out standards set the tone faster than coaches can. Rodgers walking up to the line, not through a meeting room memo, signals urgency and elevates expectations. For a team with many young linemen, immediate clarity on what's acceptable behavior in practice can accelerate professional growth. But there's a fine line between firm leadership and overreach. Rodgers has a long track record of being candid and exacting. Sometimes that produces buy-in, sometimes friction. The player's reaction matters as much as the message. Broderick Jones's love-hate description is instructive. Younger players respect knowledge and accountability, but they also want to feel trusted and coached, not micromanaged. If Rodgers' approach consistently lands as constructive tough love, it becomes a cultural asset. If it regularly looks like public shaming, it risks eroding trust. Coaches still own the enforcement and technique. Rodgers' message should be treated as complementary to coaching, not a substitute. The offensive line needs clear technical instruction, assignments, slide protections, communication calls, and those are Tomlin Arthur Smith and the O-line coach's domain. Rodgers can enforce the why and the urgency, but the how has to be taught and reinforced in drills. Otherwise, you get physical pushback without the technique to back it up, more penalties, mistimed help, or worse, players getting out of position to protect and opening other windows for the defense. Practical football adjustments that follow from the message rise. If the line truly embraces a protector mentality, the offense should still adapt. Quicker throws, more max pro at key junctures, and situationally slide protections or chip and release concepts that explicitly assign help. On the flip side, the coaching staff should monitor penalties stemming from overzealous protection. A culture of intervention can unintentionally create false starts, holding penalties, or unnecessary contact that draws flags and costs yards. Measuring success. What to watch for in the coming weeks. 1. Sack and pressure numbers in preseason games and early regular season plays. If pressures fall meaningfully, it's a sign the message translated to on-field results. 2. Penalty trends. An uptick in holding or illegal use of hands issues after Rodgers' message would suggest protection is morphing into recklessness. 3. In-practice demeanor and recovery. Are the young linemen staying disciplined under instruction or rebelling? Media-friendly anecdotes are fine, but internal reports from coaches and trainers will tell the real story. 4. Rodgers' health and comfort in the pocket. If he's visibly more confident and takes fewer needless hits, trust will build quickly. Risk factors and reputational points. Rodgers' past history of calling players out publicly, sometimes controversially, may color perceptions. He's a star with a large platform. Every sideline interaction will be parsed. The Steelers must manage optics, praise where it's due, enforce discipline privately where it's not, and let on-field execution be the final arbiter. Potential upside for younger linemen. There's also a developmental upside. Younger players often crave clear standards and a why behind the toughness. If Rodgers' message genuinely increases their commitment to team defense, backing one another when needed, communicating better on stunts and twists, that's long-term growth. Broderick Jones' comment about the line recognizing Rodgers' leadership shows the potential for mutual respect. Veterans teach, younger players learn, and everyone benefits. Bottom line, Rodgers' sideline message is the kind of leadership intervention that, when done right, accelerates culture change. It's immediate, visceral, and effective at signaling that protection of teammates is non-negotiable. The payoff could be tangible: fewer sacks, more time in the pocket, and a calmer quarterback. But the Steelers must pair Rodgers' emotional leadership with disciplined coaching to avoid overcorrection and penalties. If they strike the right balance, this moment could become a defining early season lesson in accountability for a young offensive line, and a reason why Rodgers' influence matters beyond his throws. Aaron Rodgers' sideline admonition, "Don't you ever let that happen again," after seeing Skylar Thompson get knocked down, is short, sharp, and textbook veteran leadership. But there's more packed into that moment than a quick dressing down. It's a microcosm of what Rodgers brings to Pittsburgh, the dynamics of a very young offensive line, and the cultural reset the Steelers are chasing this season. First, the leadership angle. Rodgers is a 41-year-old Hall of Famer who's played in plenty of locker rooms. He understands that protection isn't just X's and O's, it's a mindset. Calling the line out publicly sends two clear messages: quarterbacks matter and accountability matters. For rookies and young starters, blunt, immediate feedback from an elite QB can accelerate growth. When Rodgers describes the OL as policemen and big brothers, he's staking a claim on a protective, team-first identity, the kind of emotional standard that veteran quarterbacks often instill. Second, the developmental angle. Pittsburgh's offensive front is unusually young. Aside from Isaac Sumalo, most starters are in their early 20s. Youth brings upside, but also lapses in awareness. Communication on stunts, help side responsibility, and situational awareness on sideline scrambles. Rodgers' rebuke is less about theatrics and more about teaching situational discipline. Don't let a fourth stringer get leveled on a routine rep. If interior and tackle play responds by tightening rotations and showing more physicality, that's an immediate win. Third, cohesion and culture. Rodgers' intervention can build trust quickly. When a leader publicly defends teammates, teammates rally. The subsequent examples Rodgers points to, Zach Frazier, Pat Freiermuth, Troy Fautanu, show the message stuck. Those are moments that create identity. We protect each other. Over a long season, a few plays prevented by attention and support can reduce injury risk and preserve offensive rhythm. That said, there are risks. Public shaming, if overused, can fracture relationships and put pressure on a young group, making linemen play tight or overly physical in ways that draw penalties or cause injuries. Rodgers' language about backing up your brothers must be balanced by coaching clarity. How to protect without escalating into dirty play, how to maintain assignments, and how to train instincts so the protection happens naturally instead of by reaction. Coaches matter here. Mike Tomlin and the OL coaches must convert Rodgers' emotional call to concrete practice changes, increased simulation of sideline chaos, clearer microcommunications, and reps that force young linemen to handle pressure on scramble plays. If the staff reinforces it with technique work and accountability, Rodgers' moment turns into systemic